Greetings fellow AoE enthusiast, and welcome to the next custom civilization concept on this channel. This time we will look at the Vlachs, an umbrella civilization that encompasses all the Romanian people of Wallachia, Moldavia and Transylvania that saw many invasions from the Ottomans, Magyars and even the Mongols. They also had close relations with the Magyars and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. That means they had a lot of influence from those regions, which will reflect on their playstyle. The Vlachs will have unique bonuses that allow them to defend extremely well with a twist to reflect the cruel practice of Vlad Tepes, also known as Vlad the Impaler, and will also contain other influences from Stefan the Great of Moldavia. So to understand why the Vlachs could fit into the game, we will briefly check out their history. Now the Vlachs are an umbrella civilization for the Wallachians, Moldavians and also the Transylvanians, which means we are looking at the history of all three territories. First of all, let's start with Transylvania, which most of its time was actually part of Hungary, but the important part is through Transylvania, many different migrants from across Europe settled the Romanian territories. Especially the Saxons from German and French regions were a big part of those settlers, and even the Teutonic Order was given land to defend against the raiding Cumans. Speaking of the Hungarians and defending against invaders, we need to look at the Order of the Dragon, a knight order that was dedicated to defend against the Ottomans and to preserve Christianity. One important member of the Order of the Dragon was of course Vlad Tepes, also known as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad Tepes reigned 3 times over Wallachia with help of different parties, and this is also something we can see in his own campaign that is already in the game. Now Vlad Tepes as a child was a hostage to the Ottomans, but was later supposed to be installed on the Wallachian throne with Ottoman backing, since he was the legitimate heir after his father was murdered. Vlad reigned 3 times over Wallachia, where he used military support of the Ottomans and later the Hungarians. Most importantly, however, he opposed the Ottomans, which led to a great Ottoman invasion of Wallachia, where Vlad's forces used scorched earth tactics to weaken their opponents. One especially gruesome example of this was when the camp of the invading Ottomans was attacked at night by Vlad's forces, and the remaining Ottoman soldiers discovered a forest of thousands of impaled Turks during their advance on the capital the following days. An important ally and also strong enemy of the Ottomans was Stefan the Great of Moldavia, who didn't have such a cruel reputation, but was rather a good ruler with agricultural reforms and new taxation laws. In fact, the economy of Wallachia, Moldavia and Transylvania was generally pretty good and was also supported by a steady flow of immigrants from the Balkans to repopulate abandoned land. Stefan the Great was contested by Hungary and also Poland, and especially the Hungarians tried to conquer Moldavia, but Stefan's forces were able to defend. This brings me to the next point, that Moldavian military was also able to win battles where they were heavily outnumbered. A great example is the Battle of Vaslui, where the Moldavians decisively defeated the invading Ottomans. They stationed their army at different locations, blew horns and trumpets from those different directions behind thick fog, and tricked the enemy into thinking that they were outnumbered themselves. If we think about the military choices of the Vlachs, they used both light and heavy cavalry, as well as infantry and sometimes even cavalry archers. One important aspect was that during wartime, a giant levy of all peasants above the age of 14 was possible. Peasants in general had to be armed by law and would be sentenced to death if they didn't carry a weapon. As already mentioned, the Vlachs were often outnumbered, so they had to rely on hit-and-run tactics and scorched earth strategies to weaken their opponents. The war against the Ottomans was also supported by the Venetians in Italy, and Wallachians frequently imported Italian plate armor to strengthen their ranks. So with their strong connections with many other civilizations that are already in the game, the Vlachs are a great contender for another civilization concept as one of the last Eastern European civilizations. Now with the history done, we need to understand how to design a civilization in Age of Empires 2, and there are 2 different approaches. The first one is something the game might be missing, such as a bonus, tech or unit design that you can create the civilization concept around. With this approach, the civilization name is not as relevant as the bonuses. The second approach is needed if we have a specific civilization name in mind, and the bonuses are not as important as the civilization itself. The bonuses are added after you have decided what fits the general theme of your specific civilization. Most importantly, however, a civ design should always aim at a fun playstyle, providing balanced options for both the player and the opponent. For this video, I used the first approach of a specific gameplay option because I was thinking about how the game has so many paladin civilizations, but not one of them is fully upgraded yet lacks the final armor upgrade. I also wanted to design the Vlachs as a civilization, so I guess for this video I am using a bit of both approaches to the concept design. Now we should discuss the civilization icon, the architecture style and the wonder. And as always, if you want to skip to a specific section of the video, just use the chapters function or the timestamps in the description below. Since we are looking at the Vlachs or Romanians, meaning an umbrella civilization, I was deciding between either the coat of arms of Vlad Tepes, the slightly anachronistic Wallachian emblem, or the Moldavian emblem. I ultimately decided to go for the red coat of arms of Moldavia, since we already have a campaign featuring Vlad Tepes, and I wanted to bring some attention to the other big players of the Vlachs. And in my opinion, the yellow ox is also easier to distinguish between all the other colored shields in the game, and the white Wallachian shield was used in the 16th century. Now we can look at the architecture, and as a Slavic civilization, the Eastern European architecture set would be very fitting. So that's obviously what you will be seeing in the background. For the unique castle design, either Poinari Castle or Bran Castle could work. The Poinari Castle is already in the game as a unique building, but because it has special properties, I didn't replace the standard castle with this building through the editor. For the wonder, one of the many monasteries that were built under Stephen the Great could be used, or even the Black Church that was built by migrated Saxons. Now we can check out the unique unit. For the unique unit, I wanted something that reflected heavy infantry and also the levy of peasant armies, as well as the capability of defeating enemies, even though the Vlachs were often outnumbered. The Flailman is a cheap infantry unit that mixes all three parts together, where the cost and the weapon resemble the peasantry and the crude metal armor represents heavier infantry. Because of his light and long-range weapon, the Flailman is able to attack quickly and is also able to hit multiple targets at the same time. This makes them extremely potent in melee engagements, but the armor is lacking against ranged units. So to design the Flailman, I needed a blank unit that I could use as a base, and this was done with the dismounted Conic that wields a similar looking weapon. And after a lot of testing, I came up with fairly balanced stats. The Flailman has 55 base HP, 2 melee armor and 1 pierce armor. They move with a speed of 1 tile per second and have an attack rate of 1.7, which is slightly faster than regular gold infantry. They train in 9 seconds and they have an attack bonus of 4 against buildings as well as eagle warriors. Their unique trait is that they deal 25% splash damage to adjacent units, making them extremely strong in larger numbers and against stacked enemies. For the elite Flailman, I increased the HP by 10 from 55 to 65, I increased the attack by 2 from 8 to 10 and the melee armor by 1 from 2 to 3. I also increased the line of sight from 5 to 6. The elite upgrade cost 850 food and 450 gold. The unit itself cost 50 food and 15 gold, showing a slight gold cost in addition to a regular villager food cost. As an infantry unit, the Flailman benefits from regular blacksmith technologies as well as the barracks upgrades for faster movement speed and bonus attack against buildings. So a fully upgraded elite Flailman deals 14 damage as well as 3.5 points of splash damage to adjacent units, but keep in mind that the Vlachs will miss out on the last armor upgrade. This makes the Flailman a great unit for general melee engagements and they excel in trash fights because of their cheap gold cost. All in all, a solid unit that reflects peasant levies and holding against stronger opponents. Now with the unique unit done, we can look at the unique text for the Vlachs. As already mentioned in the history section, many different peoples migrated to or through Wallachia, Transylvania and Moldavian territories. This not only led to military operations such as those from the Teutonic Order, but also many new settlements and better agriculture. So to reflect this, the Castle Age unique tech is called Migrations, and it increases villager production speed by 30%, making this an amazing tech for booming or if you quickly have to replace fallen villagers. The technology costs 300 wood and 200 gold, making it quite affordable in early Castle Age at the expense of additional town centers. The cost could of course be adjusted to 400 wood and 250 gold or even more expensive, but with my testing I preferred the slightly cheaper option, so different strategies are possible. For example, with migrations, you are able to drop a castle once you hit castle age and then boost your economy for a 1 TC strategy. And while you might notice that this bonus is quite similar to the Persians' TC bonus, we have unique technologies that are stronger and paid civ bonuses all the time. For example, the Aztec Garland Wars unique tech and the Burmese civilization bonus. And similarly to that trend, unique techs are usually stronger and more specific, which makes migrations an amazing economy upgrade that only kicks in castle age and later. Moving on to the second unique tech, I had quite the struggle because there were so many ideas to be explored. My original idea when I first drafted the Vlachs in early 2021 was an additional pierce armor for the Knight line, but then, as you might know, the Sicilians got the Hauberk tech, which grants not only 1, but 2 pierce armor to the Knight line. I then was thinking of a Castle Age unique tech that still grants +1 pierce armor, making Knights perform similar to Paladins in Imperial Age, meaning Knights endure 60 hits from crossbowmen instead of 40. As an alternative, I was thinking of an Imperial Age unique tech that granted Paladins +3 pierce armor while missing out on the last armor upgrade. But that meant Paladins would soak up to 90 shots from arbalests instead of 60, which is even more than an elite Tarkin with 85 hits. I obviously discarded both ideas with an additional +50% more arrows as overpowered, but I still wanted the Vlachs to be a Paladin civilization that missed out on the last armor upgrade, since this variation of Paladins is still missing in the game. Before we come back to this, I also had completely different ideas, such as a tech that replaced villagers with flailmen to further reflect peasant levies. The whole mechanic of the Flemish Revolution would also perfectly fit for this occasion during war times. I tried to adjust this idea so you could individually upgrade villagers to flailmen for the 15 gold cost, but I wasn't able to do that via triggers in the scenario editor, and I'm also slightly hoping that this mechanic is going to be implemented for the Flemish Revolution itself. So for the second unique tech, I wanted something that offset the fact that Vlach Paladins lack the last armor upgrade, but I still wanted them to have a competitive knight line because even Vlad Tepes was a member of a knight order and heavy cavalry was also utilized. So the Order of the Dragon grants +1 attack and +1 melee armor to the knight line, and it makes them 10% cheaper. This not only means you have discounted paladins, but they are also great in melee engagements. They have 1 more attack and regular melee armor, meaning the knight line defeats their generic counterpart with 1 less hit, while also being cheaper to produce. This is of course offset by their miserable pierce armor, making them easy targets for ranged units such as arbalesters, and even though you can produce 10% more paladins, arbalesters still kill them a lot faster than generic paladins. The unique tech is also quite cheap with a cost of 500 food and 200 gold, roughly the same as the Bulgarian stirrups technology. Black Cavaliers would still lose to Bulgarian stirrup Cavaliers, but Blacks obviously have access to Paladins, which are stronger. Those were the unique techs, and now we can check out the civilization bonuses. The Vlachs are a cavalry and infantry civilization, but since their military options are severely limited in the late game, they are mostly an economy civilization, with one of the economic advantages being their unique technology migrations. For the first civilization bonus, I was inspired by the agricultural reforms by Stephen the Great and the general good economy. So I am reusing the original idea of the Gales civilization that I didn't use since it was temporarily planned as the eco bonus for the Sicilians before Lords of the West was released. So the first bonus grants your villagers +2 carry capacity for each wood or farm upgrade. That means that a lumberjack carries +2 wood once double bidax is researched. If you get 2 Mensor, you will get another +2 carry capacity. As you can see, Vlach villagers will carry +6 wood in Imperial Age and +4 food with an additional carry capacity provided by the heavy plow technology for a total of 25. This means your economy upgrades are giving you more bang for your buck, which is a different approach to upgrades as opposed to discounted eco upgrades with, for example, the Burgundians. The second civilization bonus is a military bonus and inspired by Vlad the Impaler, who of course impaled his defeated enemies. That's why your skirmishers will gain +1 attack each age for a total of +3 attack. This not only represents the use of stakes, but it is also a nice historical nod because the Turks in-game would likely want to use either cavalry archers or janissaries, who both are vulnerable to skirmishers. This bonus means that their attack is equivalent to the archer line, but of course skirmishers attack significantly slower, which makes crossbows still a good choice in the Castle Age. As you can see in the video, Vlachs skirms are an amazing support unit, but arbalests are still superior against all targets that aren't archer class units. This bonus also enables a superior composition with knights and skirmishers, where knights are vulnerable against archers, and superior skirmishers support them from the back. If you compare this with, for example, the Lithuanians, the roles are kind of switched around, where the knight line is extremely powerful, but the skirmishers in the back have 10 pierce armor that usually doesn't come into play in the back line. The Vlachs, on the other hand, can use their skirmisher bonus for defense as well as offense, creating also a potential raiding unit. Talking about defensive bonuses, the third civilization bonus is also inspired by the whole impaling theme, so your scorpions are affected by ballistics. This enables the Vlachs to defend extremely well against cavalry archers or clumped units, things the Ottomans or Turks in-game would try to use. Keep in mind that you still need to invest 200 wood for a university and another 300 wood and 175 gold for ballistics for this bonus to take effect. I was thinking of having this bonus as the Imperial Age unique tech and the heavy scorpion upgrade being free, but it turned out that by the time you get there, the tech is almost obsolete and you have better options to play with. And with the cost of a university and ballistics, this is almost like a mini unique tech, so to speak. Tell me in the comments which version you prefer. As a side note, I also wanted the Vlachs to gain resources for every destroyed building, addressing the scorched earth tactics that were often utilized during war times. And even though I would have it reversed, so that destroyed buildings of the opponent and not your own buildings grant resources, I wasn't really able to code this with the scenario editor, so I discarded the bonus and balanced with alternatives through the tech tree. Now we can skip over the unique unit and the unique techs because you already know them, and we can look at the team bonus. And for the team bonus, I wanted another bonus for your cavalry, because in my opinion every paladin should be unique, and having strategy options in the early game is also very cool to play with. So the team bonus grants your cavalry +2 attack against buildings, which especially helps your scout rush if you encounter a walled opponent and are trying to break in. This also slightly resembles the scorched earth tactics, because the Vlachs burned their buildings. This means that you have both good options in the early game and also strong units in the later stages of the game. The Vlachs can be compared to the Slav civilization because of their obvious ties, but they play out a little different. Your playstyle is focusing more on a stronger economy approach that is defended with excellent skirmishes and scorpions, and not necessarily knights or even longswords that might be supporting a potential forward siege strategy. The Vlachs also used a bit of everything in their army, and there are no records of a super special unit choice, which led to a lot of room to design around. As you can see, the Vlachs will try to use potent army compositions that cover each other's weaknesses, but single army units are less likely to succeed. With that being said, we can look at their tech tree. Looking at the archery range, the Vlachs have really good options in the early Castle Age, with crossbows, skirmishers and cavalry archers. Most of their archer units fall off in the later stages of the game though, without Thumbring or Parthian tactics, which is obviously a balanced step for the bonus attack skirmishers, who also deal good damage. Apart from Thumbring, with almost no effect on skirmishers anyway, they are fully upgraded with all the blacksmith upgrades. They also have access to the hand cannoneer in case you need a faster anti-infantry unit in the late game. Moving on to the barracks, the Vlachs have access to halberdiers and two-handed swordsmen, as well as every barracks technology. Missing the champion upgrade encourages the use of the even cheaper flailman unique unit, which also performs pretty well against eagle warriors. The Vlachs are however missing the last armor upgrade for their infantry because of their amazing skirmishes in the back. But don't worry, the armor on halberdiers doesn't really matter against melee units anyway, and the unique unit has strong melee armor too. Looking at the stable, the Vlachs have great options available with hussars and even paladins that not only get a unique upgrade in the Imperial Age, but also deal additional damage to buildings. You have bloodlines and husbandry available, and the only upgrade that is missing is of course the plate barding armor. This makes the Vlach paladins the only paladin with every upgrade except the last armor technology. This means the Vlachs have an amazing synergy with their skirmishers, while their knight line deals damage in front. As you can see, the trash options are balanced around the skirmisher, while both the halberdier and the hussar are missing the last armor upgrade. This might sting a bit at first glance, but don't forget that the Vlachs have an amazing economy that lets you replace your units rather quickly. Moving on to the siege workshop, the Vlachs have great options with fully upgraded rams, onagers, heavy scorpions that are affected by ballistics, and bombard cannons. Now the Vlachs weren't really famous for their siege engines, but I wanted them to also play around with halberdier and siege unit strategies, so I gave them an almost complete workshop, as well as siege engineers. The bombard cannon is obviously added because the Vlachs used a tactic where they stationed only 2 cannons during the attack on the capital of Targovište to deceive the Ottomans. But apart from that, it is also needed for balance reasons, because otherwise the Vlachs would die really fast against Arbalester and Onager compositions. I was considering removing the Onager upgrade since the Vlachs are already really good at countering archers, but for now the upgrade seems okay. I was also thinking about removing the siege engineers technology, but that would lead to only one fully upgraded unit for the Vlachs, which would be the skirmisher, but they are already missing the thumb ring technology. Now, to be fair, that technology doesn't do a lot for skirmishers, but having fully upgraded siege rams seems like a necessity with so many late game upgrades missing. Looking at the blacksmith, the Vlachs have all the upgrades except the last armor upgrade for their infantry and cavalry, which encourages a good army composition. Now the dock is really lackluster with a lot of missing technologies in the late game. They miss the heavy demo ship, the galleon upgrade, dry dock and shipwright, so their navy is rather bad. They weren't famous for their ships, so in the late game they are dependent on the fast fire ship if they want to achieve something on water. But usually a landing seems to be a way better choice. The university has all the upgrades except heated shot, treadmill crane and bombard tower. This means you have good defensive options with fully upgraded keeps with architecture, and you also have siege engineers available. In the castle, the Vlachs are missing hoardings and sappers, and now you can also see the details of their unique options again. Moving on to the monastery, the Vlachs have the basics with redemption and sanctity available, but they are missing out on fervor, so the monks miss out on the speed upgrade, and they also don't have faith, block printing and theocracy. This makes their monk play about average, but they don't stand out as a monk civilization. They do get heresy though, because of their strong resistance against the Ottoman Empire. And last but not least, the Vlachs have every economy upgrade except stone shaft mining and crop rotation, which is not only for balance reasons, but also because Moldavian farmers were better off searching for new land than using crop rotation. Keep in mind that their lumberjacks and farmers are also carrying more resources with each upgrade, and the unique technology migrations can further boost your economy. Now this was the tech tree, and I do think the Vlachs are a powerhouse that has familiar strategies and options which should be attractive to players who enjoy knight or economy focused civilizations. Now we can look at their potential strategies. In the Dark Age you have a completely generic civilization, so on open maps it is best to advance fast to the next age so you can get your economy upgrades as quickly as possible. In the Feudal Age you start to have many options, reflecting that the Vlachs used a bit of everything during their times. You can either go for an archer-based strategy that might transition into great skirmishes, or you can play with a fast uptime into scouts that have bonus damage against enemy buildings. The strategy is up to you, but you shouldn't neglect your economy upgrades so you can kickstart a potent castle age. Once you hit the castle age, you start to have even more options available. You can play aggressively with knights that are backed up by a good economy, or you can build a castle to get a fast migrations check in, so your 1TC play is even stronger. Alternatively, you can drop a castle, get migrations, and then slowly add more town centers for a super strong boom. This is a strategy that I enjoyed a lot on closed maps, where an economy advantage is very much possible. Once you are in the Imperial Age, your ultimate army composition is probably either a Cavalier and Skirmisher composition that is enhanced by the Order of the Dragon unique tech and the additional damage on skirmishers. If your economy is really kicking and you haven't invested too much gold in the earlier stages of the game, you might even consider the Paladin upgrade. Another option includes Halberdiers, Flailmen and Siege units that are also backed by skirmishers. So you have two really good options in the late game, making the Vlachs a familiar and easy playstyle civilization. All in all, the Vlachs are a diverse civilization with a good economy that will lead to interesting main units that are also lacking important upgrades. Those holes are however covered by different units, so a good army composition is crucial for the Vlach civilization. The Vlachs are a great civilization for 1v1 games, but because they don't have Arbalesters or the last armor upgrade on their paladins, they are probably not the best pick in team games if you play on open maps. I personally had a lot of fun testing them with their cool economy that I wanted to include in a concept over a year ago, and it is finally being used. I also enjoyed balancing around the additional attack on skirmishers that not only represent the impaling tendency of La Tepesh, but also enable the unique paladin without the last armor upgrade. And even though this civilization doesn't have a lot of sparkling mechanics, I do think it is a solid and easy to play civ that provides good strategy options. With that being said, how did you like the Vlachs and what civilization concept would you like to see next? Now, have a good one and keep customizing.